Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm Nate Roberts.
I'm Rodney Godek. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I am so excited tonight. I'm so excited. We watched two of the craziest movies you'll ever see. We're going to take a shot at the first one, then we're going to take a short break, come back, talk about the second one.
It
Now,
sounds as if you're almost uncertain about how we're going to be shooting this first one.
well, what's so
And quickly, I will just clarify: Am I unmuted tonight?
you are coming through loud and clear. um, So what I like most about these doing these two movies is that they couldn't be more different. Uh,
Mhm.
so we are definitely talking about two completely insane movies. Um,
Yeah,
in plot, in subject matter, um, but they are completely tonally different. The enjoyment factor in both movies comes from different places. It's a really, really good week to have watched the movies before tuning into the show. Unless you don't care, then you'll probably at least enjoy the conversation because these movies were out there.
yeah. These are cutting edge, kind of avant-garde type movies that are very uh, different. Uh, they're they're from different schools, and they're definitely trying to achieve different things. In are for different audiences for certain, but they are very unique, very standout, very uh, unapologetic with what they are doing and how they do it. So
That's
it's
yeah,
plenty to talk about.
yeah. That's so true. How like as they're kind of pounding through these these scenes that like you're just like, what is happening? They're not pumping the brakes. They're not, as you said, unapologetic. They're not apologizing for what they're doing on the screen. They're like, this is what it is. Like it or don't like it.
Yeah.
And that was very refreshing, I thought, in both movies actually.
Yeah, yeah, I remember hearing about them earlier in the year. They were at different film festivals, and these are definitely film festival type movies. These are not films that are going to get wide releases at all. Festivals are where you're going to see them, and they just recently hit streaming and are available for purchase VOD at your own home. So that's where we're able to find them.
Yeah, yeah. I think I just hit up tonight's the first episode. We'll be watching All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. I was able to pick this up on Screambox, which is the other Shutter. Um, I personally am a bigger fan of Shutter, but Screambox has had a couple hits lately. They picked up Terrifier 2 as an exclusive, um, and All Jacked Up, which was pretty nice to see.
Yeah, Screambox, I don't know where it'll go. I immediately question it because it's a product of Bloody Disgusting. And not that I loathe or despise, but I'm not a fan of Bloody Disgusting. I think they're pretty hacky. If you can get through all of the adverts that are on their site to try to get to some of the news or information, there's some good things there. It's hard to glean that from all the garbage that's abusing your face whenever you utilize any of their goddamn stuff. So, um, and plus, I think that the people that run are a bit hacky, anyways, as just personas. It's just me though. I'm an uppity bitch about that thing. So, uh, they're not Shutter, but they obviously are getting more things. They've got Terrifier because Bloody Disgusting helped produce
Produce it,
Terrifier
yeah.
2. So we'll see where they go. Look, if in general, it's a great thing because they're just going to be bringing more uh, films that are maybe subversive or underground to the forefront for us to view. So I'm all for it. I'm
Yeah.
not bashing the fact that they're bringing these things to us. I'm all about that. So keep it up. I'm probably not going to like a lot of it, but I'm glad it is there for myself and for anyone else that if they are a fan. That's awesome in
Yeah,
general.
actually, after I finished All the Worms or All Jacked Up, I had some time and I I noticed Screambox had the original 1974 Black Christmas, starring
Mm.
Margot Kidder, Lois Lane herself. Um, and yeah, I watched like the first half hour of it, and I was in. You know, it's as good as Halloween or any of those early slashers. Um, well, it was for the first half hour anyway. I'm not going to go and say Black Christmas is as good as Halloween until I finish the movie. um, but yeah, I'll finish that up soon. I'll let you guys know next week what I thought. All right,
Well,
so all jacked up and full of worms. Follows Roscoe, a seedy motel maintenance man, after discovering some powerful hallucinogenic worms. He meets Benny. They fall in love, making worms together before embarking on an odyssey of sex and violence. This is not well written. This actually does
no,
not tell you the plot at all. In fact, these things don't happen in the movie. I mean, well, not all of it, but some of it doesn't even happen.
yeah,
So,
I'm very. It's also labeled as a comedy horror on IMDb,
yeah,
which I think both of those are extremely generous interpretations for the film that I watched.
exactly. I would
Uh,
I would definitely not
it's an
call it.
experience,
Yeah, it's not a
you
comedy.
know.
It's not a horror.
uh,
There were.
it
I,
utilizes elements of what you would find in comedy, what you would find in horror. It's much more akin to like the closest film that I would say. There's a few things that are similar to it in as far as in different ways. So I found similarities to Mad God, where Mad God was very experiential, not really a lot to pick through as far as a, a structured narrative, right?
yeah,
And then I felt it had the same kind of like execution of style similar to the Scary of 61st. Very underground, low budget,
so
just do it, you know?
two things. First, I didn't. I don't. I texted you. If I told you I thought Scary of 61st was better, would you still watch this movie? First. Second, did you see that she's in the movie?
Well, she is?
She's the
Which one?
blonde. She's the blonde. She's Roscoe's girlfriend. I haven't looked
Oh,
it up.
yeah. That's
But isn't that
wild.
crazy?
Betsy Brown?
Betsy Brown.
Yeah. She's the girlfriend that goes down the rabbit hole with the filmmaker in The Scary of 61st. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I swear that wasn't the connection that I drew. I wasn't looking at her. It was just the way that it's done. It has that kind
Oh
of
yeah. It definitely felt like
fast
Scary of
and loose
61st.
type
Yeah.
filmmaking, you know?
I'm watching this movie and I'm like, this is just like Scary of 61st. And then I was like, that girl looks so familiar. And I brought up the IMDb and I was like, oh my God, this is excellent. Um,
So the one thing I'll say with this film is any any inebriation that one is interested in utilizing to watch this film is probably highly recommended. If you have any hallucinogenics, if you drink, if you smoke, do whatever because it probably will heighten your experience with this film because I think this film is meant to be an experience.
yes.
Um, Watching it in this lens of where we're going to be discussing it and reviewing it and not under the influence of any other kind of way, it was sort of felt wrong to watch it in that manner. I think that I would have gotten a lot more enjoyment out of it had I seen it at a festival, midnight showing with a crowd of people that were ready to just get their mind fucked with and be assaulted with some absurd imagery and visuals. So, uh, not having that kind of an experience, I think, takes a little bit away from it. And so I'm very uncertain with how to approach the film because, and I also think you could either watch this film in two ways. Like either it is really intelligent with what it's doing, and there's a lot of hidden meaning and metaphor, symbolism with stuff, uh, or it's like hacky and they're just kind of throwing everything at the wall and like trying to be weird for weird's sake, you know?
Yeah. So I explained this plot to someone, and they said to me, "What's the point?" And I was like, okay, well, for the writer director, I'm gonna guess that everything in this movie, every single thing, has a crazy, weird metaphor, and he probably thinks that it's really cool. But for your
Yep.
average viewer, I don't think this movie is worth, you know, dissecting to try and figure it out. Like, you watch the movie, if you like it, you like it. If you were entertained by it, cool. If you weren't, that's fine too. Just move on.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. And because of that, the way that I rate it is very middle of the road. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Uh, I don't feel overwhelmingly positive about enough of it, but I don't feel overwhelmingly negative about enough of it to really say one way or the other. It's like I think it's good at some of the things, but I also think it's sort of not for me and not my cup of tea. As much as I enjoyed some of it, I think a lot of it was borderline offensive and shock value for shock value's sake. So I landed at a 5 with it.
I also gave it a five for the exact same reasons. I, there were scenes where I was like, oh, that was neat. There were scenes I was like, that was disgusting. Sometimes I
Yeah.
said that was disgusting in a good way. Sometimes I said that was disgusting in a bad way. I just couldn't. There wasn't enough good to overshadow the bad. There wasn't so much bad that it was unwatchable. You
Yeah,
know,
there's so many things that are going on that I can picture myself in a different time and place, where I'm at a different mindset. I'd be really into it, I think.
yeah,
Where
yeah,
I'd be like, "Oh, this is fucking cool," and like you're cool and weird if you're into this. Like you're my kind of people, and we can celebrate it, and we're into it, just like the characters are about doing worms.
right,
Like
right.
it's
Everybody,
that kind of.
yeah. I agree. I would watch this at a party. I don't think I'd ever watch this alone again, and I wish I didn't watch it alone the first time. Um, that being said, a little bit about the show. We like to give you these quick, succinct wrap up reviews without spoiling anything. Number 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. And then we move on to the second part of the show where we go a little more in depth, and there will be spoilers. So, stay tuned if you don't care, or go watch the movie and come back. We've reached that point where we're moving on to spoilers for All Jacked Up and Full of Worms. So, what do you think, Rod? Where do we want to start?
I mean, I guess I just want to get into more detail about. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't under. I would like to understand. Uh, I've criticized films that we've reviewed before about the need for like a director's statement or how that's like asinine or pretentious or douchey, and I stand by that assertion. However, I would be interested in knowing what the director was going for or wanted to do with this because they've got a website uh, for the
Sure.
film, and it has a bunch of taglines from critics and people's responses after festivals, and is kind of hyping up no one's done crazy shit like this before, and it's wild, it'll blow your mind, it's disgusting, it's so subversive, it's so transgressive. That's all fair and valid, but it's like, to what end? What it reminds me of, there was an artist who was proposing a show at my university that I went to, that I attended for college, and they had a certain body of work, and my college happened to be a Marianist university. It had an affiliation with Catholicism and things of that nature. So the artist's work said one thing. They said, okay, we're going to do a show. The artist then sent all of the artwork for the show that was going to open the following month, a couple weeks ahead of time so that it could be hung and ready for an opening.
Hmm.
And he sent artwork that was the most offensive artwork you could imagine at a Catholic institution. This was imagery of Christ and other religious figures mashed up with pornographic imagery.
Hmm.
I can't remember his name right now. It doesn't really matter. They were beautiful artworks. They were
Sure.
had like porno ads or images of pornography. but using religious iconography hidden within layers of resin and color. And it was so beautiful looking, but you were looking at something offensive or awful. And whenever he talked about the work, because it was sort of like a bait and switch, it was kind of fucked up and disingenuous to do it that way. When he talked about it, he mentioned, at least in part, what was motivating him was the idea of shock value. And
Okay.
for me and many others, that took us out of it. Like, fuck you. That's cool. You made a fuss on some university that no one gives a shit about. Good for you. Pat yourself on the back. The artwork should have been the most important thing that you wanted to get out there, not the fact that you wanted to shock us with what was being presented. That's kind of a bullshit thing. So I'd be interested in what the artist's intentions were, the director in this film.
Right.
So that's a
Sure.
long about ways of saying that I think in this film, I'm interested in knowing because at face value, I experienced something. I'm glad that I experienced it, but I question a lot of what I saw, and I would like to know the intent of why I watched what I just watched because it was so bizarre and and confusing.
Sure, sure. And before we get deeper into that, why don't we take a look at the website? Flip over to it. This is wormsmovie.com. All jacked up
Yeah,
and full of worms. We got a video here. I'm gonna mute it. Oh, it's just the YouTube trailer. Okay. Um,
I
yeah,
mean the poster
so
art
there's
is
Benny.
fucking awesome. That's what
Oh
drew me
yeah.
in.
Oh, the poster
The
art's
text,
amazing.
the imagery. I mean, look at my fucking room here. I like the poppy colors.
Yeah. So this is Benny receiving the baby fuck doll he ordered on the internet, which is the first piece of like, what the
That he
fuck am I
unintentionally
watching?
ordered,
Yeah, it
apparently.
was an
Yeah,
accident. It was an
I
accident.
know.
He just wants to practice being a dad, so he orders this doll, and it happens to be something that
Pleasure
hopefully
doll.
God does not exist.
Yeah. But they
Uh,
definitely made a miniature actual doll for the prop,
yeah,
and it's really, I think that, will malign an audience member right there and be like, yeah, this movie is not for me. I'm turning it off right now.
yeah. So then he meets this prostitute who he can't get it up because he's so messed up over what just
Weird
happened.
and awkward.
Yeah, and she's the one who's like, "Hey, let's do these worms," and he's like, "Nah," and he gets out of there. She turns out to be pregnant. This is a whole fucked up thing. We'll get to it later. Uh, there's there's so much just weird stuff in this movie. Um, and
Yeah.
like you said before, it seems like it's all for the shock. You know, if there's a yeah, there she is. If there is a scary of the 61st, if there is an underlying allegory here, we definitely didn't get it on the first viewing.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of it is I just watched this a couple hours ago, and
Sure,
so I'm kind
sure.
of reeling, and I don't know, part of me is like, I don't really care to sit and overanalyze it because I don't think is necessary. Like, it was an experience, and I think I would have had a better experience had I been trashed or something.
Yeah,
But or been with a group of people where we could like kind of like laugh or spitball ideas and pontificate about what this means and what that means. I think that would
yeah,
have been fun. Um, so it's like, yeah, I don't know how to feel. Like I can and try to read into the journey of things and some of the imagery, but yeah, you're right. For the most part, it's the first viewing, you're kind of left just like raw from everything that you just saw,
yeah,
and it abuses your senses in a way that other films it doesn't happen often. And the way that this one did was definitely interesting because of it. Like I'll remember this movie. Uh,
yeah.
it was a trip,
It was. Some of the quotes here, I thought the theater might be raided and we might all be arrested for Movie Maker magazine.
right?
I don't think I could imagine seeing this in a movie theater, or maybe if it was a packed movie theater, it would have been a fucking blast, right?
Yeah,
If
I
like
know.
if
That's
like
what I'm
everybody was
jealous
like, yeah,
of anyone. Yeah, I agree. That would have been awesome to see. I can picture watching this in grad school with my friends and like, being fucking high on Adderall and drunk and just like loving every fucking minute of it. That was like the days where I was getting three Netflix CDs, DVDs in the mail regularly, and I was just going through shit, eating it up. Robert Cargill has a quote on there. He's one of the producers of The Black Phone
Oh yeah,
that
right
we
here. Yep.
both enjoyed this summer. It's it's a unique movie, but it's definitely not for everyone. Like the sex doll that we're mentioning right at the top, like that's gonna malign an audience member. Someone's not gonna watch it because of that. And it's not a normal narrative structured movie. It's about visuals, the sound design, the music, composition. I did love and it's weird because it does has like the neon lights from time to time. They have trippy sequences, sort of like a Fear and Loathing or Big Lebowski-esque type montages that occur
Hmm.
where there's influence of drugs and hallucinogenics going on, where you don't know what's real and what's not real. And that really is kind of a throughout the whole movie. You're wondering like, what is any of this? Is this all a fever dream? Is this all? Is Roscoe still on the goddamn floor in the living
Floor
room,
at the beginning. Yeah,
under
yeah.
his, yeah, where he wakes up and says like, "I think I just killed my childhood." Like, what the fuck? Uh, you don't know what to think. So you're like, it's like you shouldn't overanalyze. I don't know. I'm stuck wavering between those two feelings. Like I want to dig into it and try to pick out things to uh to hang my hat on as to what to take away from the film, but I think also just the experience of that insanity is what's most important, not necessarily a coherent message or a meaning. So it's a weird spot. There hasn't been a film that's made me feel that way in a long time because it's not I
Ooh, we lost you there for a moment. Oh, maybe you're
of it, but
still.
I'm also
Oh, you're
kind
back. All right, the last few seconds, and you still might
of
be. You might want to reconnect the Discord. Definitely refresh the camera, at least.
well, maybe it's just the fact that I've got a lot going on.
Oh, that's possible. Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
your upload.
yeah, it's more than likely that. I'll just close down some of the other Twitch chats not being as active, so that's fine. Am I good now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Great. So like I was just saying, it's just it was something to experience. It was fun, but I don't know really what I'm gonna take away from it. And so I'm just like middle of the road. I don't I don't think I'll ever recommend it, but I think if I ever got into like a situation where drugs and this movie were involved, I might be down for it.
Yeah, yeah, okay, all
Which
right.
I don't
So,
see.
so if we're not gonna analyze it, why don't we just talk about some of the highlights?
Sure.
For me, okay, we get introduced to this character and like it's a white dude, but he's in white face with some like really bad maybe clown kind of mimey makeup on.
The I think they called him the Clown King, didn't
The
they?
Clown King. And then
I think they might have.
yeah, and he's banging this Asian girl on a garbage can when we first are introduced to them. And and
Yep.
Roscoe catches him and he's like, "What are you looking at?" And like he pulls out his little box cutter.
Yeah.
Um, and so these characters we see a few times throughout the film, and then they become more prominent in the Act Three.
Hmm.
And they're just mischief makers. So I really enjoyed these two specifically because they were kind of like the chaos, which saying that they were the chaos in a movie that's so chaotic
Yeah,
you
awkward.
can't
Yeah.
really figure out what's going on. But these two were the very unpredictable in what
Yeah,
they
I
were
mean,
doing.
and it's funny because they talk about, that worms is the drug of choice in this movie. And maybe that's an allegory for whatever the fuck. And they talk about you can eat them, or you can snort them.
Yeah,
These motherfuckers are mainlining worms,
worms.
dude. They're
Yeah,
fucking slitting their arms open and they're putting them in their fucking body. Like,
yeah,
that was awesome.
yeah.
And like I feel like these two characters were like the the end product of Roscoe and Benny and Dennis eventually as like
Right.
the ones that are just virgins to the
To the
lifestyle of doing
right.
worms.
Yeah. Oh,
And like this is
Dennis.
something what will come of you.
Dennis was such a great character. So they're
Yeah, Dennis,
at
right?
some point, Benny and Roscoe are just hanging out, having a good time on Worms, and they pop into this hotel room that I believe Benny thinks the prostitute is in.
Yeah,
But they open the door, and Dennis is this tubby older gentleman, and he's in his jacuzzi or whatever with like a martini or something, and
yeah,
he's like, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "Hey, you guys, you want to hang out?" It's like, "No." Like, "You want to do worms?" Like, "Why did you say so? Get in here. I love getting
yeah,
fucked up." And then they're like, all three of them are in the hot tub on
yeah,
worms, and like, so Dennis, this rando, just kind of joins their journey, and
yeah.
yeah, he
His
was.
reaction to when Benny's like, "My child died drowned today," and he's like, "Oh my God, really, man?
You lost your kid today?
Jesus." He's like really pathetic because he doesn't understand it's a doll,
It was a
like
doll
because
that
Benny thinks
yeah, the doll
he's
got
he's uh
thrown in the ocean by who?
by the dude that's
Oh,
in the this
by the
he's
old
the he was
yeah, the pimp.
he was the pimp
He was the pimp.
of the prostitute Henrietta, but he was also the guy that was talking about in the narration
Yeah,
voiceover
in the
stuff of doing worms and
doing
going on
worms. Yeah,
the trips.
he's always
And
on
his
TV.
that whole thing was really funny because the way that he was talking about his experiences, he's like, there was a giant purple worm, and he said to all the other worms, "He's mine, leave him alone."
Yeah,
And he like it's like the most like it was. There are parts of it where you're like, yeah, this is comedic.
yeah, yeah.
How
Well,
insane it is, and
when
that's
he
fair.
all right, so Benny wants a kid and couldn't make it with the prostitute because he was so distraught about buying the wrong doll. So she actually ends up pregnant, and then in this scene where they're on the beach, the pimp comes out with the baseball bat and the prostitute's chasing him, and he starts beating Benny, and he's like you,
Yeah.
you knocked up my biggest money maker. And it's just
Yeah.
it's like well, they didn't even have sex, and first of all, that happened today, like as far as as the viewer.
Yeah, I know. I know. And it's just absurd.
And
And then
yeah,
later in the movie, Benny's like, "How could you be pregnant? I didn't come in you." Like, and it just like matter of fact, like dumb statement. And it's
yeah,
like, well, yeah,
yeah,
but
and
the way he
she's
says it's like, okay,
yeah,
he's not a complete moron.
and she says that she wants it to be him or something like that. Benny, I want it to be you. Um,
Yeah. I mean, then it's just wow.
But then she starts
It's
hitting him, and
memorable.
like she's just hitting him and insulting him, like you're the worst person I've ever met. And then in the next scene, they're like making out again inside of a worm sack and covered in goo. So there's like, it's so hard to describe.
I know.
This isn't just kind of go watch it and lower your expectations before you get in there, and then you'll have a good
Yeah, and
time.
like yeah, put it on at the end of the night after you've had gone to a party, you've had drinks. Like I feel like inebriation of some sort is a benefit to watching this movie. For sure. I'm having a little bit just to talk about it because I just feel like it's more palatable. Like even now, I am having more fun talking about it with you. I think
Right.
that we would have had a really good time had we seen it together. Uh, because we would have just been like, well, like
Yeah. Well, thank God it's
emboldening one another with how to interpret it.
thank God it's 72 minutes long, so because I will watch it again with some
Yeah,
people,
that's the
I'm sure.
thing. The runtime is beneficial because even then it felt long
It
because there's not a lot going on. There's nothing to really follow. It's like Mad God, but Mad God has amazing sound, amazing visuals. You're watching stop motion. That's the most enthralling fucking stuff ever.
yeah.
Everything is a piece of art. This is not that. There's neat things that happen, but there's also a lot of insanity where you're just like confused and don't know what to do. So it's hard to sit through it, even if it is an abbreviated runtime.
Yeah.
Kudos for them to follow this vision the way that they did. It's definitely memorable. It's definitely in your face, doing what it wants to fucking do. I don't know to what end. I think it obviously got a lot of press and interest on the festival front. It's still going to be in festivals across the world through December.
Oh yeah. I
So
mean,
good for them, but
I'm definitely going to talk about this movie, for the next week at least. Like me just telling people I watched this crazy fucked up movie is going to get people to watch it, here locally. Um, and
yeah.
then we're going to get to talk about it, which like we just said is more fun than watching it.
Yeah, and I mean, fair enough. I mean, this could be something where merch for it would be kind of like neat because it's very obscure.
Oh yeah.
And I imagine, as time passes, finding someone that's also seen it would probably be a fun thing to connect, to know that you've experienced the same thing would be an interesting, you know, connection to have with someone, a stranger.
Yeah. Yeah, like how they use CG to cut out the green man who's doing this with the worm, but then the flying worm, but then on the TV screen in the
Yeah.
interview world, the guy's in the mocap suit and he's got the sticks and he's doing this with the worm right in their faces, like while they're conducting the interview, and they're just kind of ignoring that he and the worm are there, and it's like
I
you're
know.
just like,
And
what
some of the
is
things that he
happening?
says are, I thought, were great. I
Oh,
think
the
they called
worm?
him the Worm King. Yeah, like you have to unlearn your
You have
shapes.
to unlearn your
I was like,
shapes. Only
what
then.
does that mean?
What's your favorite shape? The octagon.
I
How many sides does it have? 8. No, the octagon has infinite sides.
wrong.
The octagon has infinite sides. You have to
Infinite
you
size.
have to unlearn your shapes, and only then can you.
Man,
What are these? Only then can you be free.
I
I don't even know.
it's wild.
Yeah, yeah, it was crazy.
And it just makes you question, everything. So yeah, I mean, I stand by the five.
Yeah,
There's a lot that we're getting out of it. We're pulling a lot of really fun things to dissect with it. But yeah, I can't in good conscience say like, it's a slam dunk to just go put it on and you'll feel the same way. Like I didn't feel this way after watching it. I'm only feeling this way now
yeah.
talking about it with you. So
I
it's a
am
thing.
exactly the same. So yeah, watch it at your own risk. 5 out of 10. Uh, um, from both of us, 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Uh, we're gonna take a quick break. Be back in 5 minutes for the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm Nate Roberts,
I'm Rodney Godek. Take care.
and we'll see you in a bit.